Good to go. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this live session on sports and sponsorship with representatives from Workafella, co-working spaces, and Chennaiyin Football Club. These two brands have associated last year during the Hero Indian Super League when Workafella came on as the official co-working space partner with Chennaiyin Football Club. This evening, we've got Mr. Shray Rattha, director and founder of Workafella, Mr. Vinod Babu, CEO Workafella, Mr. Hiren Mody, Group Vice President, Chennaiyin Football Club, and Mr. Ganesha Soda, Head Sponsorships and Marketing, Chennaiyin Football Club. Welcome, gentlemen, and we hope all our viewers today are safe and at home and taking care of one another. How are you guys all doing?
Good, yeah, we're doing good. Hope you're safe.
All good, all good. I believe that the Workafella, some of the sectors are back in action and planned to move back in slowly in some of the cities.
Yes, we've kind of prepped ourselves for the reopening as to speak, and we've got our places COVID ready. We're taking a lot of measures to keep the space clean and sanitized. A lot of measures which are taken proactively: sanitization of offices, the common area, the social distancing, the infrared cameras. So everything is ready to go. Yeah, and we're waiting for our clients to come. And in fact, some of our clients have already started coming
in. Super. Hiren, I think you'll just have to unmute yourself.
That's encouraging. Sorry, yes.
Perfect. So we'll sort of dive right in. We're going to have the first discussion on a general overview on sports and sponsorship in the Indian market, particularly. Question, anybody between Shray and if you guys want to take this in terms of if you want to tell us as a brand at Workafella, what sort of sponsorship activities in general, and maybe a little light on sports sponsorship. Do you guys as a brand look at what value adds do you look for when say somebody approaches you for a sponsorship negotiation?
So I'll take this. I think as Workafella as a brand itself, it's a very young, energetic, kind of a vibrant kind of a brand. So our whole, co-working culture is very young, energetic. That's what we try to create, and kind of the space also we kind of, interiors, everything, all the colors also are kind of, very young and energetic. So whenever we look at a brand to kind of, tie up with or to, partner with, we look at the same kind of, features in that as well. So Chennaiyin FC being, a football club, a young, energetic club. So, it kind of, there are a lot of synergies which we saw, in each other, and that's how we kind of, look to partner with you guys. Vinod, do you want to add on a few other points on this?
Sure, yeah. I mean, Shray is a sports enthusiast himself. He's a very avid golfer. And I think sports runs in all our veins. So we've tried to do quite a bit with sports. We've participated or been part of this surf festival that takes place in Chennai, and we've also kind of associated with the X1 Sports League as well. And we keep doing our own events internally as well, as far as promoting the sports culture between our community members. We keep conducting tournaments. And we've done a couple with the CFC association as well. So the whole idea is to kind of, relate to the whole sports environment of high energy. We promote high energy workspaces designed for doers and thinkers. So we feel that getting associated with any sport, especially a high energy sport like football, kind of has a lot of sync with what we do in the form of workspace.
Okay. So from Chennaiyin FC or even an ultimate table tennis perspective between Hiren and Ganesh, whoever want to take this, as India is pretty much still an emerging market for non-cricket sports, particularly with obviously football and even kabaddi vying for that second spot. How is it that at CFC you guys look at approaching brands? Is there a particular methodology between before you approach a particular brand, or are there certain segments of the market that you look at?
Sure. So I'll go first, and then I'll let Ganeshaya take this, because Ganeshaya will have a more detailed view on this. It comes directly under his purview as the head of sponsorships and marketing, and also to give him credit that he has been with the club since the inception. I think when I came in at Chennaiyin FC, Ganesh and myself, we sat for a long time and we discussed that how the brand should evolve. Having won a championship, reaching the playoffs in season one, having a not so great season in season three. And the common thread which came between the both of us when we were discussing was that we need to engage brands more effectively. It's not just about TV visibility, right? At the end of the day, you want to give the brand three large components. One is the experience of partnering with Chennai FC. One is the associative value. What you get is by associating with Chennai FC. And the other is how do you activate both the brands across various mediums. So I think once we started discussing that, there was a complete thread which fell into place in terms of engaging with brands, because I think if you cannot provide an experiential engagement, no brand sees value at the end of the day, because anyone can go and give you visibility, right? But what brands want is that, can I talk to the TG of the club? Can I talk to the fans of the club? Because that's the potential target audience the brand can also tap into, right? I think till quite some time back, brands and clubs were looking at it only from an association point of view. I pay you an X amount of money and I get X amount of rights. And I think what Ganesha and myself have diligently worked with under the leadership of Mrs. Dani and Mr. Bachchan is how to take this more experiential. And I think Ganesha can and throw more light in terms of what goes behind this entire process.
Yeah, so I think a few points that Hiren touched upon. A lot of brands nowadays are only looking at media visibility, whether that be associating with a team or whether that be associating with a league. Having media visibility through TV advertisements or on-ground visibility. We see that a lot in cricket. In as a sport. In football, when you see globally as well, the practice is more towards engagement, right? So when brands associate with a football team or a football league, it's more to do with how they activate that team's fan base or the league's viewership and the league's fan base, right? And there are numerous examples around the world that you can take up and you can see the kind of activations that they do. So what Hiren said, for the first 3 seasons, we ourselves were a young brand. We were also evolving, trying to understand the appetite for football in the country. Like Akhil mentioned that emerging sports are still emerging, so to speak, in India, right? And for us to kind of move from that phase to a phase where we become a football club that is engaging and kind of helping the brands leverage our fan base became a key factor. So when we kind of try and approach the brands, it's more to do with if these brands have similar synergies with us, like in the case of Workafella, where we sat with Shray, we sat with everybody, and we kind of thought through that that there are a lot of synergies and there are a lot of similarities between the brands, and we saw that the two brands could collaborate and we could come up with something fruitful. And from a Chennai FC perspective, we would have our base at Workafella, and from Workafella's perspective, the entire community, the young community of Chennai FC, the fan base would kind of be exposed to the Workafella brand, right? And this is not just pertaining to Workafella. This is more in general. When we approach the brands, it's about how we can help the brand leverage its objectives. Not just through, let's say, a jersey visibility, but more to do with on-ground activations. So I think I would say it's an overall package of visibility as well as engagement when we are approaching brands and like minds.
Yeah.
Fair enough. My next question would be to Vinod. Vinod, from Workafella's perspective, being a co-working space, what are the sort of what are you trying to leverage using sponsorships? It could be across different spaces, not just pertaining to Chennai FC or sports. But what does Workafella look at leveraging out of such a association?
So, if you look at the target audience between a high energy sport like football and our kind of target audience, where we are looking at people who are really energetic, who want to come out and do something and prove something and kind of accomplish something. We are kind of trying to target the synergy that we have as far as the audiences are concerned, and associating with a sport like football, which has a very wide reach among people, and especially in a place like Chennai, where it's got a fanatic club following. I mean, we all know what the Chennaiyin FC fans can do. I mean, it's like it's basically it's the connect that we have as far as our target audience are concerned. And when we have people like from Chennaiyin FC team working in our center, and when the clients look at the energy levels that are there, which your back-end team or the engine room is kind of doing, they get a whole sense of outlook into how the whole sports management is taking place from the back end of it. You get to see the players, you get to see the stars, you get to see the live telecast, but very rarely does one get to see the engine room, which happens on the back end. So when our community members kind of look and see this, there is an energy flow that happens. And we've seen that happen quite a bit of times. I mean, with the display of the cups that you guys have in the offices and stuff like that. So it's basically the connect of the like-minded people, the audience of the football audience, and the audience that we are targeting, who are basically thinkers and doers and go-getters. That's what we are looking for when we get into an association with a club like Chennaiyin FC. And not to mention the following of the Chennaiyin FC and the accomplishment of Chennaiyin FC, that kind of gives a sense of wanting to achieve something. I mean, we won the cup a couple of times. We've had a fantastic turnaround this year. I think that by itself is a story for people to draw inspiration from, and that's exactly what we are looking at when we associate with a club like Chennai FC and football in particular.
Thanks.
Thank
So
you.
we'll sort of dwell a little more into a point that Vinod brought up in terms of what sort of an effect do you think Shray, it sort of had. You obviously watched games live in the stadium from TV. Last year was the year where there was a remarkable turnaround where Chennai sort of came in from bottom place to then go on to final. So what sort of an impact did it possibly have for the Workafella team, being the workspace creators for the club? Was there a sense of pride being associated that way?
No, definitely, yeah. There's a lot of pride, actually. First of all, I need to congratulate you guys for a fantastic year. I think there've been a lot of ups and downs this year for you guys as well. We had a new coach coming in, and once this guy, I think Owen had come in, we saw a lot of change happening, and right from bottom, you guys, we fought through and went to the finals. And it's just been unfortunate, we couldn't win it. But the kind of fighting spirit which we kind of saw was just phenomenal, yeah. And for us as a brand to be associated with Chennaiyin FC, I think a lot of our community members also are pretty excited, because there are a lot of live streaming which is happening at our centers, and so the whole it's been great, yeah, definitely.
And from your perspective, Hiren, Ganesh, obviously in the thick of things during the season, there's obviously between all your commitments to sponsors and all stakeholders related. Being part of that journey, if you guys can throw some light on that as well.
See, I think we come from a mindset, and which comes from our ownership, is that we need to create a win-win partnership, and it's not a transaction at the end of the day. And why we say that is because I think the way the family background, right? Whether we look at Asian Paints, the Dani family, Mr. Bachchan and his family, right? They've never come across as someone who are transaction oriented people. And I think that DNA kind of seeps through our entire organization. It's all about partnerships, creating effective win-win partnerships. And I think we as a club take pride in saying that we've never created, a one-sided or a lopsided proposition. And kudos to the entire sponsorship team, right? Which Akhil, even you are part of, and what Ganesha has done. I think the biggest challenge Ganesha and I always face during the season is that we want to see a smile on our sponsor's face. We don't want our sponsor to say that they've been, dealt a shorthand by partnering with us. Winning and losing is part of any franchise, right, in any sport. But as long as the intention is honest, our team really works their backsides off in providing value, in delivering what has been promised, and sometimes even over delivering. I think brands like that. I think the warmth with which Workafella also kind of welcomed us into their family rubs off on us, right? Because we felt that we are part of the Workafella team, we are part of their extended marketing arm, and I think when that kind of a relationship is established between two parties and two brands, uh, life becomes very easy to kind of execute. Whatever we've planned off, and we've done that. We are proud of that. Having said that, we don't rest on that. We are always thinking of new ways of how do we engage the brand more, how do we service the brand more, and we are very very confident of doing that in season 7. uh, to Workafella, we can very very confidently say that our team has been working, and we will create a very very good partnership for this coming season also. Ganesha, you want to throw light on what goes in your head and how you take things?
Yeah, so I think just to dwell a little bit on what Akhil asked, I think the first couple of months for all of us were absolutely stressful for obvious reasons because the team was not doing well. While we are working for the club, we are also fans of the club, right? So obviously we want to see the team be successful. You want to see the team perform on the field, but obviously something was not going right and the team was not performing. And then the way that the team came back, it kind of just shows us that, especially in the situation that we find ourselves in, right? That, we got to keep fighting and we got to keep moving ahead, and you'll always come stronger out of it. That's exactly what the team showed us through the season. We were bottom of the table, and we ended up playing the final. Um, we missed out on winning the final, but like that's part and parcel of any sport, winning and losing. But the kind of a journey that we had, and the journey that the team, the players put up, it kind of gave us inspiration, and it gives all of us as inspiration. Generally in dealing with things in life, we're dealing with a pandemic right now, all of us. So it's kind of the perfect tonic for us to learn, as to how to bounce back from this. With regards to our partners, right? Words cannot speak enough of how highly our partners have backed us through the season. When we were having a bad time, our partners stood by it. When the tide turned around for us, our partners were there to cheer for the team along with us, and we are extremely grateful for that. Workafella has been the engine room for Chennaiyin FC, from the beginning, and we are extremely happy that our team is based from a state of the art facility like Workafella has.
Thanks,
Super.
guys.
I think something that we were looking to get into was that what you mentioned, Workafella being the engine room of Chennai FC, and I think that was what a lot of the activations around the year were
Yeah.
built as. Vinod, a question to you in terms of. As even you mentioned, this was pretty much the first sports association for Workafella as well. Can you take us through a little bit of what activations sort of were conducted through the year, and how Workafella looked to take each activation for a particular, possibly a particular objective that you guys wanted to achieve?
So, initially when this whole thing came across to us, and we were quite excited. This was our first assessment of trying to associate with a sport or a club, and we were quite excited to kind of get involved in this, and especially when it was Chennaiyin FC, considering the kind of fan following that Chennaiyin FC has, the history of achievements that Chennaiyin FC has, we couldn't wait to jump into it and then get associated with Chennaiyin FC. And I think once it started, we started hitting out. There was a lot of synergies that we found with the way the club kind of conducts itself, the management that is done, and how kind of Workafella manages it. I think there was a lot of synergy, and we could work out quite a bit. So we've done a lot of events with the Chennaiyin FC team members. In fact, some of the players have been, have come to our centers, have seen our centers, worked out of our centers. We did a press conference in our Nungambakam center as well. We had this fantastic football tournament, which the Chennaiyin FC helped us organize. The futsal that we had, I mean, that was fantastic. I think there was quite a bit of participation from a lot of our community members across the centers that we have in Chennai. I think that kind of created a lot of energy as well. And then again, your players were there to kind of felicitate the winners, and I think the association has been fantastic. We found a lot of common grounds to work with. My marketing team works very closely with Chennai FC to see what more activities can be done. But I think there's a lot more to be done. I think towards the end of the season, once we got into this COVID scenario, we couldn't really do much during the finals, which have been fantastic for us. That's something that we had to work around with. But like somebody said, sports have been there for ages. It's been there for centuries. Since the Greeks, we've played sports, or even before that. A lot of pandemics have come, gone, but the sports have survived, and I'm confident that sports is going to survive this one too. And the whole playful spirit that we have within ourselves, the competitive spirit that we have within ourselves, is going to come out. And I think the association between Chennai FC and Workafella will be there to see things through.
Super. If I can sort of get maybe Ganesh's views on the activations, like Vinod mentioned, if you can sort of tell us what maybe something that you tailor made, like that football association that you were speaking about for Workafella in specific, and what was the thought process behind that? Maybe give us a little insight into what sort of goes behind putting out any activation.
Yeah, so particularly with regards to the futsal activation, right? Like Vinod mentioned, the entire team from Workafella, the marketing team, sat with us. Akhil was involved in it right from the onset, right? The idea was what we mentioned right at the beginning of this session was, how do we engage with people? How do we engage with the Workafella community? We obviously know that a lot of the offices that sit out of Workafella are represented by youth, and I'm sure some of them play football, and we were kind of sure of that. The turf culture has obviously grown extensively over the last few years. That's when we thought that because of this strong community that is there within Workafella, we could come up with an activation which was sort of tailor-made to suit Chennai FC executing it, and Workafella's offices participating in it, which is when we kind of developed this idea of hosting the tournament at Tiki Taka, one of the famous turfs in Chennai, and that's when emailers were sent out to the community to register their teams. Teams participated in it. We had it spread over a couple of weekends, and finally, when it came to the finals, we had Changte, who went over to felicitate the winners of the tournament. And all in all, it turned out to be a tournament that worked well for the community, and kind of worked out in a nice way for from an execution perspective as well.
Great. Shray, if you can sort of maybe give us an insight as to occupants and clients at Workafella, different centers, since you said that your marketing team was, aggressively working with Chennaiyin to put this association out there. Would you say a lot of your clients are also, say, sports fans, football fans, or is it that this possibly was an introduction for them as well, to say a Chennaiyin FC or an ISL?
See, I think India is more of a cricket country, but most of our generation, especially the younger generation, I think a lot of us follow football a lot. So the kind of work environment, the people working in our centers are also much more younger, more the age group is between mostly about 28 to 35 to 40. So the kind of crowd people already knew about ISL. They were, we had a lot of Chennaiyin FC followers who are actually already sitting and working out of, for our Workafella centers. So it was kind of easy for us to relate to them about, and everyone was really excited to have you guys on board. So, I think overall it's been a good experience for all of us.
Hiren, maybe you can sort of take us through the idea of why the it's not very common to have workspace partners for sports teams, especially in India. Why the thought process behind approaching Workafella? What sort of led to this?
So, see, I think co-working spaces are the way to go. They are the future, right? Uh, for two primary reasons. They allow someone the cost flexibility to use what they want and to kind of pay for what you actually need, right? When you are hiring or renting out real estate, there are lots of other costs associated with it. And co-working spaces, besides helping you optimize your cost, what they allow you is also a lot of engagement with other brands who are renting that space, right? Rather than me going in an office building, I'm going into a co-working space which has got really reputed brands being part of the entire setup, right? And ultimately we are a professional club, and when we go to a professional organization like a Workafella, which is one of the most leading co-working spaces provider in the country, uh, I think it resonates well with us. It also allows us to utilize infrastructure more effectively, because it allows us to set up an engine room amongst our key TG, which is the youth, right? How about having a football office in a building filled with, I would say, people who are above the age of 60, 70, right, or 40 or 50? uh, we want to flourish where there are lots of ideas. I think Akhil, when we have people like you, Neil, Harsh, Mehul, KD, Ganesh, Prabhu, all of you all sharing office spaces, you all feel like coming to work. And when you feel like coming to work, seeing the surrounding which is so vibrant, which is so youthful, you get that positivity and your productivity increases. I think that's one reason to join co-working spaces. The other is, when we went and we first met, with the team at Workafella, as I said even earlier, right? There was a warmth with which we were welcomed. And this was not even Shray when we hadn't even met you at that time.
Yeah.
Your team sat with us, they gave us time to understand what we were saying, right? And I'll tell you very, very honestly, because the three of us, we believe that if we are honest, then, relationships last longer. We actually felt that you all believed everything we said, right? And when a brand believes in what we are saying, it gives us the confidence that we're going to deliver it to. And I think it was a no-brainer that, even if we would have got a better offer from, say, another brand, I think we would have selected Workafella wholeheartedly. I think we were sold on to the place when we went out there and the warmth with which your team welcomed us. So I think we were just hoping that you all come and say yes to this partnership. So thank you for showing your faith in us.
Thanks a lot, Niren. Really good to hear from you guys. Yeah.
Vinod, there's a question from somebody who's watching on the live. How can Workafella give us potentially, the kind of state-of-the-art facilities that you have at aggressive prices that you do offer it. That's why it's potentially very attractive to startups and new brands that are sort of like Hiren said, paving the way for younger people to start coming in, possibly renting these 2-seaters or 5-seaters offices. How does that sort of work from your end?
Okay, there's a lot of work that goes into it in the background before we kind of start putting up the space. Right from the time we choose the location, choose the building, look at the kind of layout of the floor plate that is there to ensure that we get better efficiency. And then what happens is the planning starts well before even we have identified a space. We kind of look at the market, we see what the market is, we see what the need for the customer is, what kind of inventories are they looking for, what kind of inventories work for the kind of customers that come around in that micro market. And then once we finalize the building, then the work starts. One of the biggest advantage for Workafella is everything is managed in-house, right? From our projects to our marketing, to our sales, to our operations, our purchase, everything is managed in-house. So we have a control over how we kind of put out our center, and that kind of cost benefit we're able to pass on to our customers. So there's a lot of back end work that happens, even kind of doing the inventory, how much space is required, how much open office is required, how many private offices are required, what kind of inventories are, like for example, if there's a startup which has just 4 people, if I end up having a lot of 6 workstation inventories, I can't really do a cost benefit for that, correct? They'll end up paying for the 2 extra seats. So getting that inventory mix is very important. It's not just about having the low inventory mix. So I could have somebody who's going to come in and look for a two workspace, and then 3 months down the line they want to increase it to 4. 6 months down the line they get a new project. They want a team of 15 people, and then 1 year, 2 years down the line they're growing up. They need the support to kind of grow and to an extent, or even get a build-to-suit space. So in a place like Tenampet, where we are present, where Chennaiyin FC's office is, we have the ability to kind of grow the customers with us.
Okay.
So they get that flexibility to plan their future, to see what kind of projects that's coming, and so it's a lot of work that goes through. And with every step, we kind of get into the details of things, so that when we're able to do things more efficiently, we pass that benefit to our customers. So that's how we're able to give such aggressive pricing.
Super. A little potentially, Hiren, Ganesh, if you guys can share, obviously you've been to their centers in Nungambakam, in Tenampet. Your sort of thoughts on the facilities, the whole layout of these. Both of them are obviously in those locations in Chennai. Street and Tenampet, obviously being the newest project in Chennai, and your thoughts on that.
I think
So-
yeah, Ganesha, why don't you?
Go ahead.
I've been talking a lot first. I think it's your turn now.
So no, just to kind of start with, we had our first office in Nungambakam. We then moved to the Workafella High Street property. The first thing I would say is the proximity from the office to our team hotel, which is Hyatt. It is almost walking distance. So whenever we have any events, whenever we have any sort of player visits that need to be done, like for the press conference that we had at Workafella, the launch conference, it makes it extremely suitable, to take the players over there, for people like Akhil, Neil, etc., to travel from the office to the team hotel if there's some requirement with the players. So I mean, the proximity is the first thing. The facilities, like I said earlier, are state of the art. I hear there is a social hub that's going to come up. I don't know how the productivity is going to suffer with the team over there, because there's going to be a PlayStation room, there's going to be a table tennis center. I'm sure it's going to be slightly better than it's right now. But the whole complex as such, there are calling booths when you need to when you need to have a phone call. There are sitting spaces outside the office, where you can meet clients from outside. The entire client servicing team at Workafella has been extremely supportive of CFC's Chennai team. Whenever we've needed the conference room or meeting rooms for meetings, they've been accommodative. everybody as a whole has, like Hiren touched upon earlier, has welcomed Chennaiyin FC like a part of the Workafella family, and we are extremely happy and appreciative about that fact. Hiren, if you want to add something here.
Yeah. So see, it's a very simple setting for us, right? We have a bunch of football maniacs who will go and work in an office, and I think it's very funny because many a times when I have gone to office myself, I have gone and told these guys that behave, we might be disturbing other people nearby, right? Because whenever I've passed by, I think everyone is seriously working, all glass cubicles, right? You can see through, and it's our guys who are kind of, I would say, the heart and the liveliness machine at the Workafella building. I completely agree with Ganeshaya that the proximity was one big factor to our team hotel. Made life easy for our team to also use the office, whether it's the coaching staff or the technical staff or even the players, and also for our team to kind of coordinate activities. But what I love about the center where we work out from, right, is the vibrancy, the colors, the ergonomics, of the cubicles, of the chairs. Basic. You made life so comfortable for us, right? We don't feel like going back home when we are there, and I think that's the key. If you go to a place where you don't feel like going back home, you make that place your home itself. And if a co-working space can do that to you, I think that's a big victory for a co-working space, I feel. So I think it's a hands down no brainer. It's one of the best places I've seen, at least out of all the co-working spaces which we saw when we were scouting the market. I think we are lucky to have that.
Great. Vinod, maybe some thoughts from you on how's it been. I think Hiren sort of put it in a delicate way that Chennai FC sort of the team there disrupts the work environment for everybody else. How has it been for you? Hosting and a slightly unconventional sort of a team like a football club's office in your premises.
Well, I'll tell you what. Energy is very contagious, and it's a good contagious situation to be in than what we are currently. You want to see some energy. Energy breeds energy. It gives a lot of life to the place. Like Hiren said, people who are watching or also want to get into work. I mean, they see some action happening, and that kind of boosts a person's energy level to try and achieve something, do something. And especially when I see your teams working, I mean, I've seen you guys work quite hard. I mean, I was surprised. I never thought there's so much of work that goes behind the scenes for a sports club. I thought all the action was in the field or on the training ground, but never really imagined there is so much work that needs to be done to get a team together and kind of present it in a certain way, and get things going. And hats off, even when the chips were down earlier in the earlier part of the season. I never saw. I mean, you guys were very, very confident. I mean, whenever I passed by anybody from CFC, had a chat with them, they were confident. They were like, "It's still early days. I'm sure we'll come around. We will do this." I mean, at any given point of time, the positivity and the energy was brilliant, and that's what we love about the team CFC, especially the people who are coming into the office. And I think a lot of my customers also have said this to me. They see people with sports jerseys around. They see large cups in the office. It's like you're coming to a place where you're getting to accomplish something, and that's the feel that's there when you walk into the space. And thanks to you guys to actually bring that energy level up.
Thank you, thank you. I hope we're
Thanks
just
a lot.
not
Vinod.
a
Thanks a lot.
nuisance, because many a times I get inside the room and I was like, guys, quiet, you're disturbing. Because we see papers in other cubicles, right? In other workstations,
Yeah.
people are generally working on worksheets and spreadsheets, and they're discussing, and there are these flow charts on the whiteboard. And suddenly we have this one, bodybuilder Neil, who is suddenly just doing PT ups with the football,
Yeah.
and we have our logistics manager Mehul and Akhil, at it each other. So I think the vibrancy kind of allows us to coexist, and I think sometimes we say that creativity lies in the chaos, and we bring chaos to Workafella.
Chaos. I think chaos is great to sort of go into our last segment before we take
Yeah.
some questions. The current situation that all of us find ourselves in. there's also a question that just popped up about it. What does it look like, Hiren, from a perspective of life post COVID in a sports sort of context, football context, perhaps?
See, I think sports has been the biggest unifier, and I think whenever the chips have been down, it's sports which has kind of lifted spirits across the world, right? And I strongly feel that sport will continue to do that. Having said that, safety of human life is of paramount importance. So while we all have to learn to live with the virus till a potential treatment or a vaccine is out for people to be treated with, I think we have to follow the guidelines which are set by the government, whether it's with sporting activity or with social distancing norms or with how life continues. So I think we have to be responsible citizens, follow the directive, but sport will happen. I think human will is indestructible. These might be very, very, I would say poetic words, but I strongly believe in it. We all strongly believe in it. We are working towards a season taking place, but all this is subject to government guidelines or government permissions. And we are constantly in touch with FSDL, which is the body which organizes and owns the Hero Indian Super League. Uh, Ganeshaya and our team are responsibly in touch with all our partners, updating them on what could happen and how we are going to treat our work in the post-COVID scenario. So I think we should, and I think and these are the times where I think people are just going and overreacting in ways. There is loss of human life, loss of economic activity, and I think sport is going to come out binding all of these things and unifying all this, and we will emerge in a very positive manner out of this. That's my personal belief.
Yeah, I think we all hope to do that. I think we were having slight internet issues on Shrey. And Shrey, if you're able to hear us, maybe if your thoughts on potentially what impact is going to be post COVID on the workspace industry, your clients' feedback. I'm sure you're in touch with a lot of your clients across the country. Sorry, I think if you can just unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now, Akhil?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think overall, coming over the co-working scenario, basically we're seeing a lot of requirements actually in the last month. Even I was surprised, about this, especially with, companies who are looking to downsize, who want like more flexible options. We're getting a lot of those kind of inquiries coming in. And I think the whole, work culture, work out of home is not really possible in a country like India, unless you actually come to work and sit down. There's work which is, you can't get work done. So, so we're seeing a lot of positive things out of it. But at the same time, I think we need to be careful with this whole virus. So we've kind of taken a lot of steps in the centers to kind of make it safe for our, clients to come in and work. So I think moving forward, I think the big guys are the people who are going to kind of survive out of this, and the smaller people, who just come up with one center, two centers, will kind of not survive out of it. Reason being that corporates are now looking at us. They're saying we want flexible options, either maybe 20 seats in Chennai, 20 seats in Hyderabad, 20 seats in Bangalore. So companies are coming to us saying we want to downsize in these cities, but we want more flexible options. So we're getting a lot of those kind of inquiries coming in. And I definitely see co-working, going to be a kind of a game changer in the real estate industry, going forward. And let's see. I think hopefully, kind of things settle down, and we should have some good positive things coming ahead, for us.
Surely. Vinod, you'd mentioned, of course, that Workafella partnered with the Surf Fest in Chennai, I think last season, similar with the X1 Racing League and with Chennaiyin FC. Your thoughts in the same context of life post-COVID, does Workafella as a brand, and I think, in general, if you can speak, what is going to be the approach of brands towards sponsorships, associations with events, with properties, with teams?
Yes, so clearly, I mean, we are seeing a phase where the world is going to be referred to as pre-COVID era and a post-COVID era. There are a lot of adjustments that the companies will have to make in the way they work and the associations that they do and the way they conduct business itself. A lot is going to be determined by what the government rules and regulations and certain guidelines that come through as well. But having said that, every challenge presents an opportunity for itself. So, like Shray said, for us as a co-working player who has pan-India presence, we see huge opportunity in able to service our customers better. With the ability to get in more customers from various industries, being able to give them the flexibility. Now, as far as the general brand outlook is concerned, like I said, we will have to be cautious about what's happening around us. We'll have to take the guidelines seriously. We'll have to ensure that we're putting in that extra bit of effort, like we've done in Workafella, right from the infrared cameras that we've got in for thermal sensing when the customers enter, to the SOPs that we have put on how your valet driver actually takes your car and gives your car back, to the sensor-based taps, to the hands-free sanitizers, to the sanitization that we do. So to an extent, we even once we sanitize the office, we put a seal on your door saying that it was sanitized at such and such a date and such a time. So when you open the door to your office, you know that you're the first one to kind of open the door after the sanitization is done. So a lot of these adjustments the companies will have to make in their own fields, and we as co-working players are leaving no leave unturned to ensure that we provide a very safe environment to our customers. From a business perspective, we definitely see a huge opportunity, and I guess we're ready for it.
Super. Ganesha, possibly coming to you for one last question. We're running short on time on this. Potentially it's a great one because somebody also just commented saying that they're waiting to participate in the next edition of the Workafella CFC Futsal Championship. And I think that was quite well received by some of the clients at the Workafella centers in Chennai as well. From an activation perspective, do you look at activations for brands going more towards digital space, or are you still able to, implement a lot more on-ground activations as was the case with the Futsal Championship?
So I think first things first, a lot will depend on the government directives and the government guidelines as to the movement of people and the kind of the way we'll be able to, that will kind of determine the way we'll be able to activate. Obviously, digital will become a big space. The way we are having a session right now on a video call, there's going to be a lot more digitalization of our activations and our of our activities for our partners. But that being said, obviously, if the government guidelines permit us to, have sporting activities resumed, let's say a futsal tournament, futsal places, we will obviously look to have, a repeat of that in the coming season, and obviously try and have more activations which are centered around the fans and the community of Workafella. So yeah, I mean, I think largely it will depend a lot on what the future holds post the COVID era.
Also, just to add to what Ganesha was saying, see, I think every challenge throws upon a lot of opportunities, right? How we can help brands is that football is all about fitness. It's all about tenacity. It's all about agility, right? There are lots of management lessons which can be drawn from the sport. So what we are looking at is that new ways of activating. So we can have our coaches, our technical team talk about how it is to be a football player or the sport or strategizing that sport and how they could apply that in their management sphere, right? I was seeing that someone asked a question that we are a football club and Workafella is a real estate company. So how do you see the fit? That's how we see the fit, right? How we become synergistic and how we can complement each other. So while we hope from our hearts that physical activity and physical touch and feel can start again, right? And it's encouraging news that Coimbatore is kind of looking at opening up and they are looking at some futsal areas, lesser number of people renting them out and starting physical activity. While that's amazingly welcome, there are ways in which we can take digital to a new medium, right? And we are very confident of doing that. So Workafella will be experiencing that, and that's how Workafella will also engage with their clients. Ultimately, that's how a partnership will work, right? So we'll get there. So Workafella will tell their clients that along with Chennaiyin FC, we are going to do X, Y, Z things, on the digital medium, and this is only going to be accessible for the Workafella clients, right? And that's where the value addition will come in. And I think Shray and Vinod Ganeshaya will be in touch with Akhil because he's spearheading this. These are all his ideas. Sorry if I could have plagiarized it, but these guys are working on this tone, right? And that's my pretty much what we do. We strategize, and it's all the team on the ground which kind of takes it forward. So we'll definitely do that.
Sounds good, yeah.
Yeah.
Super. I think it's been a quite an insightful discussion. Just to sort of wrap it up, there were some obviously popular questions about if each of you can sort of maybe give us a moment of the last season, Chennai FC on the pitch, off the pitch, something that was quite memorable for you. If you will start with Vinod.
Well, for me, one of the most memorable was, I would say, off the pitch was the press conference that we did, and then meeting Andre Shemri and kind of having a discussion with him. It was quite insightful. I got to ask a lot of stupid questions which you can't ask in public to a footballer. As a layman, as a common football fan, it was quite interesting. I think that was a moment for me in the whole year, the press conference that we did.
Super. Shrey, yourself.
For me, actually, being a football fan, actually one of the matches was kind of the highlight for me for the year, especially the semi-final match, the way you guys bounced back and got to the finals. So I think that was a good moment for me, this
Yeah,
year.
the 4-1 with FC Goa is quite a popular choice
Yeah.
of fans as well. Ganesha, yourself?
I think, like Shray, I'm a football fan first, so I'll pick a football moment. For me, I think the game against Hyderabad at home. We were going on a run when we didn't even score a single goal, let alone winning a match. And we just had the first goal scored by Andre Shemji towards the end of the game. Hyderabad equalized, and then we had a 94th minute winner from Valskis. And the way the stadium erupted, it was literally
Yeah.
electric. So I think that has to be the highlight for me, the turnaround.
I'll tell you, Akhil. Mine is not mine are actually two. The first turnaround for me was the game in Hyderabad, but this is nothing to do on the field. It's something to do off the field. I was standing next to Ganeshaya, and he said that Valskis needs just one goal. That one goal, and then he will start and he'll go ballistic, right? And it was something like a prophecy, I think. And which Ganeshaya was kind of coming to, and somehow it just happened, right? He scored, and the rest is history, right? The golden boot is with him. The second moment for me was experiencing the final, right? Though it was behind closed doors, and we couldn't help it, right? We couldn't bring the second title back, the third title back home. Uh, that experience itself was life defining for me for a couple of reasons. One was that it said that don't give up, right, till the final whistle is over. And the second, it said that even if you slogged it out, you reached the finals, but you've not won the cup, right? Yeah, it's going to pain. But rather than that pain, you got to live that journey from that first win with Hyderabad and reaching the final, right? I think that journey itself, I would not trade it with anything. I mean, it was one game we lost it, right? But that journey, I think every game was life defining. I mean, what came out was the Chennai FC spirit, never give up, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the season for us.
Great. I think we'll wrap it up with that. Thank you for taking time out for this discussion, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm sure it was quite insightful for our viewers as well. A little bit of insight onto sports sponsorships, possibly what's going to be, like you said, the post-COVID era, and obviously some fun, memorable moments for all of us. Look forward to chatting with everybody again. And till then, obviously, everybody, please take care, stay safe,
Yes.
and stay indoors.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks,
Shray.
guys.
Thank you, Vinod.
Bye.
Thank you for
Bye-bye.
showing your faith in
Thanks,
us.
guys. Thanks,
Thank you.
Vinod. Thanks, Shray.
Thank
And
you.
stay safe and take care.
Yes.
Thanks, buddy.
See you. Have a nice evening, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.